Rachel is unavailable today, so she asked that I go ahead and lead us. So I want to welcome you. Welcome, everybody. We'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance, if Dave, you don't mind putting up a flag here. All righty. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, guys. All right. Earl, can I talk you into doing our invocation today?
Okay. Bless us, dear Lord, as we come before you today with our community to say goodbye to a year we wish we could forget and welcome in a new one. And we know that with your blessings, it will be better than the last. As we go through our deliberations today, be with us, keep us in good stead with you, and lead us to everlasting life. Through Christ our Lord, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, now it's time to introduce our guests. Karen, welcome. Thank you for being here today. We're going to hear from her. She's with Deschutes County Tobacco Prevention and is the education coordinator for that, is my understanding. I don't see any other guests, but Nicole, hello. Cindy, hello. Thank you for joining. I'm not missing anybody that I see. Okay. Announcements. We've got our coffee clatter coming up January 22nd. That will be a online event through the Redmond Chamber. Friday the 22nd from 8:30 to 9:30. And you'll continue to learn about that as we get closer, but we'd encourage as many active Kiwanians on that deal as we can. So we'll send reminders and things as that gets closer. Rachel sent me the agenda, so I'm just reading down it. Birthdays, mine. I had a birthday on Monday, but other than that, happy dollars. So let's go ahead and go around and do some happy dollars. Thanks, Michelle. Go ahead and we'll just raise hands. I'll start. I'll throw 5 happy dollars in for a great Christmas with the family. I'm another year older, and maybe for the end of 2020. I think those are milestones at this point. Dan.
So I've got a couple of happy dollars. I had a very wonderful Christmas with our children and granddaughter. It was just a great time, and I'm happy to be home and ready to settle in for a long winter's nap.
Awesome. Yeah, Roland, go ahead.
Yeah, pop it in 5, but it covers a couple things. Like everybody, we're glad that's the last time we have to speak about 2020 in our club meeting. My family, my kids and their kids live out of town, and we didn't gather here like we always do, but we drew names and exchanged gifts and did a Zoom gift exchange. Worked out interesting and fun. So now looking forward to what the new year beholds for us.
Very good. Yeah, that's an interesting approach, right? The whole Zoom phenomenon is pretty cool. All right. Sorry, whoever wants, I see a bunch of hands all at once, so whoever wants to go. Carl, go ahead.
Well, as you can see by the name under my picture, my daughter was here for Christmas with her family, and that was very enjoyable. There was just the 6 of us, and we didn't invite the governor.
Fair enough. All right, Earl, did I see your hand come and go a couple of times?
To put 2 happy dollars in, we also had a Zoom Christmas. It was good to see the grandkids opening their gifts. And the other thing is that I went to the doctor and he says, "Oh, it looks like I'll live for another year."
Awesome.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Penny.
Yeah, I'll throw in a few happy dollars. I've got one for Karen joining us today. That used to be my old position, if some of you recall, when I worked for Deschutes County. And then another happy dollar for I got out in the backcountry this weekend and had a beautiful day with some friends out at Tam MacArthur Rim. So that was really fun and made it out in one piece and safe. The Abbey conditions were a little unstable, but and then lastly, it was my sister's birthday, same as your birthday, Josh, on Monday. So we got out, took the day off, and went out, took her cross country skiing, and we had a great time. So
That's awesome. Good. Cindy, I saw your hand.
Yes. I'll throw in two happy dollars for the lovely sunshine we have today. It was starting to look like Portland with all the overcast. Glad to see it turn back into Central Oregon.
Yes, awesome. Did I miss any? Oh, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, hey everyone. Mine was, I'll do 5 happy dollars for just a good Christmas. I got socks, which is exactly what I asked for and wanted. First time ever, but practical 2020 gift. And a University of Louisville win over the University of Kentucky Wildcats, sending them to 7-1 or 1-7, excuse me, not since 1911. That made me happy, even though they weren't necessarily on their top game. So those are my happy dollars.
Awesome. John Bruce, I thought I saw your hand.
Yes, you did. First of all, happy birthday to you. I'll throw in $5 today. There's several different things I'd like to mention. First of all, Christmas, of course, meeting with kids by Zoom, that was fun and different. But something happened. I had a call from a friend in Haines where I lived for 30 years. And he jokingly said, where's your operations guide? Well, what that meant was 25 years ago, I was hired by the state to write emergency operations guides for 10 small towns in Southeast Alaska. And I wrote one for our hometown. Well, they couldn't even find it. Well, thank goodness, because it was 25 years old, apparently. The other thing was that it was designed to be updated. But I think what happened when I went back to check my own copy, I found everything on floppy disks, so probably it was outdated, I'm guessing. The second thing was that I had formed a group in Haines of carpenters, and we call ourselves Shim Construction, and we just did volunteer work. And when I left, I think it probably dissolved, but I got another phone call from another friend who said, well, with all the flooding and the landslides, mudslides, we've reformed Shim Construction. Thank you. That was kind of neat. And I guess finally, a student dropped by last summer. We visited for a while, and he sent me little coasters that you get for like your coffee and so on, set on. And he is now a engineer working with Google. And so he sent me etched maps of the Chilkat Peninsula where we'd lived for 30 years on the coasters. Nice thing. All these things made me happy. Thank you for letting me take the time to share.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, John. Absolutely. That's great. Okay, I don't want to miss anybody. Any other hands? Otherwise, we are forced to move into the joke of the day, which I'm not taking credit for. It's Rachel's joke. Here we go. What is a New Year's resolution? Something that goes in one year and out the other. All right. Not as bad as it sounded. I guess out loud it was better than when I read it. One other note, at the end of our Zoom today, I do ask that if you're on our board, please stick around. We have a couple of applications we want to talk about before year end. And so that is tomorrow. So since I've got you, we'll chat for a minute about that and get a couple people approved. If there's time and you guys can stick around. Otherwise, let's move right into the program. Karen, you're up.
Great, thanks. Well, thank you all for inviting me to present. I am Karen Ard. I'm the Tobacco Prevention and Education Program Coordinator for Deschutes County. As Penny mentioned, I took over after she left. She left some pretty big shoes to fill and did a fantastic job. So I feel like I'm just trying to live up to what she left behind. So I really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak today. I will be speaking a little bit on Measure 108, but because I'm here, I took some opportunities to provide a little bit more information on some of the tobacco prevention work we're doing. And, normally when I do presentations, the first thing I'll get asked is, what's going on with vaping? So I'm going to provide some information for you on that as well. I do have a little presentation. I look like I can share my screen, so I will try to get that up for you all, and I'll get started. I know once I start the presentation, questions can sometimes be difficult to see via chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt or type in, and I'll lean on someone, Penny or Josh, to interrupt me, and you can ask the question. So let me see what I can do here. Okay. Okay, are you all seeing my presentation? I can only see a couple people. Yep, see nodding heads. Perfect. So let's go ahead and just a second while I move faces around my screen so I can see everything. So just a little bit about my role with the county. My role is really to engage communities through policy systems and environmental change strategies to reduce youth initiation and protect people from exposure to secondhand smoke, as well as provide support and resources for people who want to quit. Like I mentioned, I'm going to share a little bit of data about vaping because I always get those questions, so I felt like it was super important to provide this. So what we're seeing in Deschutes County is a pretty high increase in youth vaping. Our graph right here shows that we are seeing a decline in conventional cigarettes. Deschutes County is the 2016 is the green bar, 2018 is the blue bar, and then the state is the yellow bar from 2018. So we're seeing a decrease from 2016 to 2018 with conventional cigarettes. We're still a bit higher than the state, but when you look over at vaping, we've seen a pretty significant increase from 19% to almost 30% of our 11th graders using vaping products. This is much higher than the state as well. We have some data that's coming out, from recenter times. We're still within that 20% or higher range. I think 2019 data was about 24%, but it was from a different survey. But we're seeing, not huge decreases just yet in vaping. So some of the trends that we are seeing is, kids aren't using these e-cigarettes in isolation. They're usually using them with other substances like marijuana or alcohol, as well as smoking conventional cigarettes as well. And those that do start with e-cigarettes are 4 times as likely to begin smoking conventional cigarettes within 18 months. And from studies, what we're seeing that's really worrisome is that the dual use of both conventional cigarettes and e-cigarettes is really the most harmful. And we're unfortunately seeing that is a connection, that kids are using both e-cigarettes and conventional cigarettes dually, or they're moving from e-cigarettes to conventional cigarettes at some point within an 18-month period. So in January of 2020, the federal government, in response to the e-cigarette and vaping related illness, as well as just the increase in popularity that vaping became, decided to ban flavored cartridges or flavored cartridge-based nicotine pods. That's a mouthful, like Juul. What they didn't ban were products that, like the Puff Bar, are disposable, or anything that can be filled. So any of the tank cartridges that you put the e-liquid in is still available on market, and those can be available in flavors. So they banned flavored products. You can still get menthol and traditional tobacco in those cartridge base. The other products, they did not ban flavors at all. And so I was chatting with one of my youth interns and was like, you know, hey, now that Juul has been banned, which was the most popular product for young people, what does it look like now? And she's like, oh, well, there's just Puff Bar packages everywhere now. We've just all switched to something different that's available. So, you know, with the ban did not come necessarily a decrease in use because there were so many loopholes in that ban. What happened was just new products came out in the market. As well as, you know, this is a watch. It's also a vaping device. You can pop it out and use it as a vaping device. It's fillable. So there's new technology that's coming out that's, you know, relatively youth friendly and is easy to hide and conceal for young people. So when we go to do our work within tobacco prevention, we really aren't looking for, you know, a silver bullet because we know that it takes a comprehensive approach. So within Deschutes County and all across the state, we really focus on kind of three topic areas is reducing youth initiation. For us, we really focus on that youth access. So that's including, you know, tobacco taxes, raising the age to 21, which happened a couple years ago, putting restrictions on flavored products, having tobacco retail licensing so we can do proper enforcement and make sure kids are not accessing products, as well as looking at, you know, how many retailers are within school zones that are selling tobacco. So kids that are walking home from school are constantly, you know, seeing those sales, as well as providing, you know, education within the schools of evidence-based curriculum that works, which is an important part of that statement. Another thing that we focus on is smoke-free environments. So that's looking at tobacco-free properties, you know, for governments, for businesses, smoke-free areas, you know, and really changing that social norm of smoking in public places. You know, every time I was not around for when smoking was allowed on planes, but every time I do hop on a plane, I'm very, very thankful that that is no longer a thing. Just for my own lungs' sake, as well as I do have allergies towards tobacco smoke. And so I couldn't imagine having to sit through a 5-hour flight with that much smoke in one area. So, you know, really making sure that people are protected from exposures to secondhand smoke. And then cessation, you know, we want to provide services and access for those that want to quit. You know, with vaping, this is, you know, it's to a certain degree a new thing. And the way that we go about providing that prevention and education has had to shift a little bit from what we're used to in our normal tobacco prevention. So really focusing on the youth providing that voice and feedback and providing their own materials that will help them quit. I think I see a comment coming in, maybe. Oh, okay. Okay. So measure 108. So this is the tobacco tax that was voted on in November. It goes into effect January 1st of 2021. So in 2 days, which seems crazy that that's already happening. I still feel like it's February of last year for some reason, which I'm glad it's not. But anyway, the tobacco tax increases the state cigarette tax from $1.33 to $3.33. So that's a $2 increase. It also creates a whole new tax on the wholesale prices of e-cigarettes. So prior to this, e-cigarettes were not taxed at all. And it also it increases the cigar tax cap to not exceed $1. So that increases it from 50 cents to $1. So where does the tax revenue go? About 90% of it is going to go to Oregon Health Authority for medical and healthcare assistance, including mental health services, and then about 10% will go to tribal health, urban Indian health programs, health equity programs, and tobacco prevention and nicotine prevention programs.
Hey, Karen.
Yes.
Great job. Doing awesome. I was just wondering if you could maybe talk about the importance of why the state was so focused on increasing the tax. I'm sure a lot of people know this, but just kind of talk about some of the research behind it. Maybe that might be helpful.
Yeah, I'm next slide over.
Oh, cool. Got it. Perfect. Thanks.
So, as we see, the tobacco tax does have a $2 increase, and often people are like, that's a lot of money. We also spend a lot of money when it comes to tobacco. Every year in Oregon, about $1.5 billion goes to smoking-related healthcare costs. And in Deschutes County alone, we spend $68.6 million in tobacco-related medical costs and throughout in just 1 year. So, tobacco tax is an evidence-based approach, and it does reduce smoking and vaping. The research shows that it reduces smoking and it prevents another generation from becoming addicted. A lot of that has to do with, just the cost. Oftentimes if things start to get too pricey, people decide that they don't want to purchase it. And for young people, that don't necessarily have large amounts of income coming in, having that increased cost will prevent them from purchasing products. And that research shows that it is an effective tool to use. The vaping and tobacco tax will prevent nearly 12,000 premature deaths, and it will prevent more than 19,000 young people from smoking. And that's specific to the $2 a pack increase. So if you increase the cigarette tax even more, then you would prevent even more young people from smoking.
Karen?
Yes.
This is Roland. This bit prevention and the raising costs or adding taxes to increase the cost seems to me, particularly with youth in the last few years, their disposable income has really jumped. It doesn't take much effort to see young people spending more money on cars, smoothies. Why do they think that adding a little more price to vaping and tobacco is going to reduce things?
Well, because it has been proven effective in the past. And that is true. I think the disposable income is, definitely different nowadays. And, this is raising the tobacco tax is one preventative measure. There's also, multiple other things that we're trying to focus on. And that's really, looking at how kids are accessing these products. Ideally, kids under the age of 21 should not be able to get a hold of these products. I wish that was a true statement, but we know that there are flaws in our system, and that includes, a lack of consistent enforcement because we don't have a tobacco retail license. We don't even know how many stores are selling tobacco products. So we don't have adequate ability to inspect and make sure that people or young people are being able to access these products. Another thing is online sales. So making sure that those are prevented so kids can't access through online sales. There's multiple different, measures. This is one strategy, and it has been proven effective, to increase that. I think with the increase on the e-cigarettes, that does raise the price quite a bit. It's not capped. And so the price could be, a pretty significant increase. And these products are not the cheapest thing in the world. Oftentimes kids are, sharing with other friends and doing things like that. So, I think it definitely goes back to, this is one approach that has been proven effective, but it does take other approaches to address the issue.
Thank you.
So last slide, just to talk a little bit about what tobacco use in COVID-19 looks like. We're seeing more and more studies come out that smoking and vaping can increase the risk of serious complications from COVID. Probably for the most obvious reasons is when you're smoking, that you're putting something into your lungs. COVID-19 is attacking the lungs, so you're doing kind of damage to both organs at the same time, as well as with smoking and vaping, you're increasing your risks of chronic diseases that are known for having more serious complications for COVID-19, like heart disease, diabetes, things of that nature, as well as it just weakens the immune system. So if you were to get COVID-19 and already prone to having respiratory infections like pneumonia, puts a person at greater risk to have more serious complications. So just to provide a little bit of information, what we're seeing with young people is that those that are smoking and vaping are more likely to contract COVID, as well as have symptoms as well. So important to remind, young people as well, because for the most part, COVID-19 is not affecting young people as severely as those that are older, but what we are seeing is that they are starting to show more symptoms if they have reported use of vaping or smoking.
Karen?
Yes.
When you look at who smokes, who uses e-cigarettes and so on, has there been any relationship between the smoking and the economic status of the people who are doing this?
Yes. So when you look at conventional cigarettes, you'll see more of a specific correlation to lower income communities that are smoking. That has historically been the case, mainly because of how the tobacco industry has influenced those communities, especially communities of color. When we talk about e-cigarettes, we're not necessarily seeing the same correlations with low income specifically. I think it also has to do with just the population itself of younger people, or e-cigarettes with young people, we're not seeing the same correlation. So we're seeing kind of across the board and across the economic status of kids using vaping products.
Karen?
Yes. Hold on. I will just get out of this because I have no more real slides yet. So did I stop sharing?
Karen, this is Dave Shirley. I understand a lot of the youngsters, when they're vaping, in order to cut down on the cost, they turn their kitchens into a makeshift lab to make the solutions they use for the vape. How dangerous is this?
That is a great question. I have not heard that in terms of people making e-cigarette liquids. That could be different with utilize or creating butane hash oil, and anything that in my world, anything that requires a butane torch to melt something down is probably not the safest thing to use in your house. I will say that, kids are using weird things to vape. We know that there's kids out there that are vaping essential oils. So anything they're putting in their lungs that they don't know what it is not going to be, it's going to be harmful. Yeah, I haven't heard that about creating liquids within their home for e-cigarette use. I'll have to look into that.
Hey, Karen, I'm just curious. I'm definitely out of date, or I don't know, out of the know these days now that I'm not researching tobacco prevention stuff as much. But I was curious if there's been any developments on any regulations on the manufacturing of the vaping devices themselves. I know years ago, 5 years ago, there was concern about the types of metal that were coming out of, or in the devices among the devices that were being produced in like China. I know that there were some reports of the metal like shearing off and getting penetrating people's lungs. Has there been any development on regulations around like those types of products?
Yeah, so there's always some form of process of regulation. The problem is it keeps getting pushed back. There's new regulations that are in place. It's always a new process of kind of evaluating new products that are coming out on the market. Unfortunately, the timelines are usually just keeps getting pushed back because of litigation. So there is right now, a lot of the FDA is looking at heat not burn products. So as they deem modified risk of harm products. And there are several, enforcements that are in place on new products out on the market. There's a hold on, products that are that have already been developed. But unfortunately, because of litigation, they're always in a different state. So when that actually will be cleared is a good question. I'd love to find that answer. So yeah, I would say, unfortunately, there's probably not a good answer for that there's just varying levels of enforcement and looking at these products, and there's just not a whole lot of consistency. And what we're finding is there's a whole lot of loopholes within how they're being enforced and looked at the FDA. And
yeah, absolutely. Goes on and on and on for sure.
Yeah.
Just wonder if there's any progress there. And then I just have another question for you. I know you guys were working on some school policies, and I think the group might be interested in learning about your alternative to suspension policies that you guys have been working on. And if you just want to give us an update about that, that would be great.
Yeah, so we just went through a whole branding, and so the official title is we have a new program called Shift. And the goal of the program is to provide an alternative to out-of-school suspension for young people that have been have had some sort of violation of the school alcohol and drug policy. So normally, when a kid gets in trouble, they get a 10-day suspension or a 3-day suspension, depending on if they're able to go through an alcohol or drug assessment. So there was some inequities with how the enforcement was, or how once the policy was broken, how that enforcement went into place, and the kids went home. So, not necessarily, the best place for them, if they are up to no good. So this new protocol put into place, it's actually, it's rolling out in Ben Lapine school districts and has gone through some pilot stages, and there's a couple other school sites that are starting to look at new ways through a new virtual platform to roll it out as well. But when a kid violates the program, instead of having that automatic, suspension, they are routed to a program that they get evaluated. And depending on the severity of their use or what the violation was, they either get routed to see a certified drug and alcohol counselor, or they get enrolled into a curriculum that's provided through the school. And that goes through, and that's usually for pretty minor offenses, first time offenses. Usually if it's a second or third offense, or something that is a chronic issue, they get routed specifically to the certified drug and alcohol counselor. So these are in place to, change that punitive only, enforcement that we're all so familiar with, and changing it to providing that support for young people to get equitable access to these resources. And money is not, doesn't play a role in where they can access these services. So.
Great, thank you. That sounds really exciting. It's nice to know that you guys have changed that policy from just suspending kids, taking them out of school, sending them home, to possibly, utilize tobacco even more while they're unsupervised or in the home where they might be okay to use tobacco. But yeah, just keeping them in school and getting them more resources and trying to help change their behavior in some way. We always know that just because people are caught with tobacco, they're not necessarily at the stage ready to quit necessarily that behavior, but they at least are directed to get more resources and work towards that behavior change. So that's great.
Any other questions for Karen? Okay. Well, thank you, Karen. That was very insightful. Such good information. We're really happy to see you guys doing what you do. It's such an important aspect, and I think a lot of people don't even think about it, really. Take it for granted. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for spending some time with us today. We appreciate you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Lastly, our thought of the day. And again, I'm not going to take credit for this. This is all Rachel. Rachel gave me the agenda pre-made. But the thought of the day is at 12:01 a.m., January 1st, for the first time ever, hindsight will truly be 2020. Oh. I like that.
Oh, that's good.
Pretty close. That's good. But again, I don't want to take credit. So we'll give credit where it's due. So thank you guys. But again, if you're on our board, please stick around. We've got a couple of things to chat about real quick. And then everybody else, you're free to go. So thank you so much. Yeah. Have a successful week and Happy New Year.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye, guys.